Hey, I'm Christine. We're back. It's Tuesday, which means another segment of Just the Tip Tuesday.
My name is Nisha McKenzie. I come from the Center for Women's Sexual Health in Grand Rapids OBGYN. And today we have with us Miss Heather Alberda.
We have a special guest, our first time guest on Just the Tip Tuesday.
We're very excited.
We are. Heather, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Heather is a certified sex educator. And in fact, the only certified sex educator in what radius? I mean, you're kind of
There's like 5 or 7 in the entire state of Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you're one of them.
I am.
Obviously, we talk, it's important to learn about sex. Beyond the good stuff and the pleasure of it, we have to know about the risks of being sexually active. So it's Sexual Health Awareness Month, right?
September, yeah.
So that's what September, be aware of your sexual health and all the risks. So we're going to be talking about STDs and making sure you're safe and all that good stuff. So we have to cover stuff like this.
Yeah.
So where do we start? Where do we begin when it comes to talking about sexual health awareness?
So Heather, where do you start? Like if someone comes into you, what do you recommend they start with?
I'd say usually if they're in a new relationship or they've been in a relationship for a while, just getting tested, having each other get tested. So doing that either through their primary health care provider, going to a health department or another health clinic, but just kind of starting that conversation. Getting routine checkups as part of kind of their regular sexual health yearly exam that they make it.
So how often do you recommend that people be tested?
We recommend that everybody gets tested at least once a year, or if they're changing partners or having multiple partners, like every 3 to 6 months.
But if you're in a relationship, you recommend a monogamous relationship. You recommend at least once a year, just to make sure
everybody's good.
Yeah, all the pipes are working well.
And there's so many STIs too that are asymptomatic.
Yeah, you don't know that you have an STI until you find out at the doctor's office.
Right. So like things like chlamydia, we think about things like genital herpes or genital warts, they may not produce any signs or symptoms for months, even sometimes years after an exposure. So getting tested, knowing your partner is going to be really, really important.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of buzz lately about all these new apps that you can...
Apps?
So there's apps and you can have a testing kit sent to your home.
Yep.
And... I don't know, what is it, pea in a stick or whatever it is.
Is it like an at-home HIV test or?
Yeah, I think I was just reading, was it this week? I think it's an app called Mately.
Yeah.
And you can, you both can test, and then it gets you can have that information posted like on your Tinder account or on your.
Whoa.
So that people know, right?
What do you think of that?
Interesting.
That's open.
Well, at least I know they're clean.
Right.
And so in the health profession, the pros and cons of doing your test at home, what happens if you do test positive, then who is there to kind of walk you through that process and what the next steps are, versus when you test in an office, they're able to refer you, they're able to let you know who within your social circle do you want to connect with. So there's lots of kind of, I think, pros and cons to testing at home.
Do you recommend it though?
I mean, if someone is really nervous about going to their healthcare provider, or maybe they live in a really rural area where it's really far for them to drive to be able to access sexual health services, then I do think that that's a good option.
Okay.
But I would prefer to see clients face to face.
Yeah.
When delivering and talking about STD testing and treatment, because here in Michigan, if someone does test positive for chlamydia or gonorrhea, we have expedited partner therapy, which means that if I test positive, I'll go in, I'll get treatment, and then I'll also be able to either get a prescription or the actual antibiotic to be able to take to my partner.
So they could be on the treatment as well,
without even having to be tested or seen by a physician or by a healthcare provider.
Now, does that automatically mean that the partner is infected as well?
We're gonna just make the assumption that they are, and because we see chlamydia in particular being so widespread, that we're just gonna be able to hand that out. And
better be safe than sorry.
Correct.
Now, going back to relationships, quite often people who are in long-term relationships eventually feel like, well, we don't really need a condom. It feels so much better without one, and you're on birth control. What do you say to those people to the people who decide that they're going to ditch the condom?
I know you've got some good answers for this one.
So really getting at the root of, what kind of constitutes a place in our relationship where you don't want to use condoms or don't feel like there's not a need for that? And then kind of weighing those pros and cons against sexually transmitted infections. It goes back to the trust in the relationship, those defined sexual boundaries and being respectful of those. Having that ongoing conversation, which sounds like a broken record, but it's so important.
I mean, communication is key in a relationship, and communication about sex is just as important.
And not bringing up the conversation like in the heat of the moment when you're about ready to engage in sex, like talking about it beforehand when you're out on a walk, out on a coffee, out on your date night, like some other kind of relaxing time, and not when you're like in the mood and ready to get it on, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, let's just take a break a minute because I really would like to have this condom conversation.
Yeah, let's go.
Right.
Yeah. So tell me, what about insurance coverage? If someone wants to come see someone at the health department for this, I know what insurance coverage looks like in my office for this, and usually insurance will cover counseling things for that. What does it look like if they come to the health department?
So if they come to the health department, we have a couple different options. If they come in and they would prefer to be a confidential client, which means that we don't bill insurance, then we put them on what's on our sliding fee scale. So we base everybody the prices that we charge for people based on their personal income, not who they live with, not their family's income, but their own personal income. That kind of equates where they fall on our scale. And
so you make it work for them.
Correct. And again, knowing too, if someone's under the age of 18, that they can access sexual health services without their parents' knowledge or their parents' consent is important as well.
Yeah.
And then if they do have insurance that we bill, then we can bill people's insurances as well. So it just depends on the client and what kind of services that they're seeking when they come in to the health department.
The point of just the Tip Tuesday, besides a fun name, is to get we have a tip. So what would you say is the tip, or maybe tips that you feel like people should know when it comes to sexual awareness and being healthy and being safe? What's the biggest tip?
I would say related to STDs, it's going to be use condoms, know your partner, get tested, and know your status.
And I think one of the other just the tips would be, it doesn't have to be a penis in a vagina.
Yeah.
It can be any kind of genital touching. It can be oral to genital touching. So make sure that you're talking to your provider about what kind of activity, what kind of behavior you're participating in, because you may need to have your throat swabbed.
Yeah.
And check for, gonorrhea, chlamydia, or your tushy. And so you need to make sure that you're telling your provider what types of behaviors you're participating in.
Yep.
Very important tips. And you'll be back for the next Just the Tip Tuesday, where we kind of dig a little more into
a little bit more about some of the nuances of some of the HIV and some of the other infections.
Yeah. So we'll do that on the next Just the Tip Tuesday. Thank you so much, ladies.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.